I call on the Minister for Social Protection, Deputy Joan Burton.
Thank you, Alas Ceann Comhairle. There are very significant signs that Ireland is emerging from the very damaging fiscal crisis that we inherited when we came into office in 2011. Thankfully, we are about to exit the bailout programme and will soon regain entry to the club of nations that can control their own fiscal destinies. The financial markets are confident in their belief that we can manage our own fiscal affairs. We can now, in a real way, consider how we as a country restore confidence to our people and create the work opportunities that so many crave. When this government came to office, we inherited the fallout from the multiple policy failures that had built up during Fianna Fáil's disastrous decade and a half of misgovernment. Much has been written about how Fianna Fáil's reign of incompetence destroyed our banking system and our public finances. However, Fianna Fáil had an equal opportunities approach to ineptitude, making sure that its policy disasters rippled out across all areas of government. In my own area of social protection and labour market policy, Fianna Fáil's utter failure to introduce any meaningful reforms to the social welfare system to encourage work have been highlighted again and again by the ESRI, the IMF and the OECD, the latter pointing out that we would have entered the recession with 100,000 more people in work if the party opposite had lifted their finger to introduce the job activation reforms that are taken for granted in modern European welfare states. For me, Fianna Fáil's epitaph, to be honest, is not simply Anglo or the guarantee, so much as the less well-known but extraordinary fact that between 2004 and 2007, at the very height of the boom, the share of households defined as jobless recorded a double-digit increase to reach 15% of the total, by far the highest in the EU. And it is very clear that the welfare system played some role in these changes. I refuse to listen to any lectures from Fianna Fáil about their progressive approach to social welfare and income distribution. For Fianna Fáil, progressivity meant taking a slice from their property tax pyramid scheme and using it to increase welfare rates without making any effort whatsoever to improve the prospects of people on social welfare in the jobs market by way of the development of skills and training opportunities. If that is what Fianna Fáil means when it says it's progressive, then I don't agree. There is nothing progressive about just writing someone a cheque. And from their comments on the budget, it's clear that Sinn Féin have inherited the handout mentality. I have greater ambition for people who are unfortunate enough to be unemployed, to lose their job, to see the firm they work in close. I view each and every individual who is on the live register as an untapped resource and a future employee or self-employed person or business person who will participate in the rebuilding of this country and its economic recovery. That ambition is why we are moving from a passive to an active welfare system. And that's why I focused on transforming the department from the passive benefits provider of old to an active, engaged and focused organisation that provides employment services for job seekers and also, very importantly, for employers, because employers have an enormous role to play in getting people back to work, particularly young people. So in addition to providing income support, we now help job seekers find the work, the training and the education that they need. I've secured additional capital funding next year, which will allow my department to secure the rollout of the new social welfare intro service in all of the department's offices nationwide. And as you know, with the economy stabilising and business sentiment improving, factors which will no doubt be helped by this budget, and with the private sector now creating 3,000 new jobs every month, there will be a lot more jobs created in our economy next year. When we came to office during 2011, the economic outlook was so bad that the live register looked certain at that stage to exceed 500,000 people. I'm glad to report that this week the live register now stands, for last Friday, at 400,807 people and should go below 400,000 next week. This will see the live register at its lowest level since May of 2009. This is still far too high, of course, but we are making firm, visible and tangible progress and will continue to make more progress due to our sound management of the economy over the next number of years. And bear in mind the live register includes anybody who gets a payment in terms of job seekers, and that there are at any one time 75,000, 85,000 people who work part-time. So it's a very significant statement about people in the Irish economy getting back to work, and of course the CSO figures for the end of June show that for the first half of the year there are 33,800 extra people in employment in the country. Getting people back to work is the most effective way of reducing social welfare spending, and we're doing it. So that's why my department has an ever-increasing focus on more engagement with employers, and we've established a dedicated employer engagement section which will liaise with employers to help with their recruitment needs. We are developing and will enhance further bespoke recruitment and training arrangements for employers around the country in each of our social welfare regions. We will continue to arrange job fairs around Ireland and arrange for the on-the-spot interviewing for employers who are recruiting. It's also worth noting that the estimate for the Family Income Supplement Scheme will increase by over 52 million over the estimate provided for the scheme in 2013. This is a testament to the increasing number of people availing of the scheme and gaining a firm foothold in employment as a result. And as people know here, this is additional money paid on a week-by-week basis to families with children who are in relatively low-paid employment. And it is a very important assistance for people getting back to work, and indeed for employers. During Ireland's presidency of the EU Council, I brokered the agreement on the EU-wide Youth Guarantee, which, once implemented from next year onwards, will offer all job seekers under 25 good quality employment, training or educational opportunities. As part of this, the Department of Social Protection is currently developing the range of opportunities on offer to young people in the form of internships, participation on employment schemes, subsidised private sector recruitment and supports for self-employment. The full range of youth employment initiatives will be set out in the Government's plan for the implementation of the guarantee, which is to be submitted to the EU by the end of the year. Measures will include incentivising employers to offer more job opportunities to young people by reducing the eligibility for people under 25 for the Jobs Plus scheme. Jobs Plus, so for any young person 6 months or more unemployed, an employer who takes them on, if that young job seeker is more than 6 months and less than 2 years unemployed, the employer will get €300 a month cash subsidy paid on a month-by-month basis. For a young job seeker who's more than 2 years unemployed, the employer will get €400 a month cash subsidy month on month for the first 2 years of the young person's employment. So that's going to make a significant opportunity available to people under 25 and a significant opportunity for employers. But it is necessary that employers partner with the state and with the education system to offer work opportunities to young people. We're providing for an additional intake of 1,500 young people to the JobBridge National Internship Scheme. We're ensuring that 1,000 places in the Department's Community Work Placement Scheme are targeted at young people. And in a further measure to support young adults, a minimum of 2,000 training places will be ring-fenced by the Department of Education and Skills for under 25s. These places will be provided under a follow-up to the successful Momentum programme that operated in 2013. In addition, my department will provide income supports to an estimated 2,000 people that will avail of Momentum courses that will be provided by the Department of Education at an estimated cost of €15 million per year. Furthermore, the Department of Jobs will invest approximately €2.5 million next year in making funds available to young entrepreneurs via Microfinance Ireland and other business start-up schemes. In parallel, we are introducing changes to income support for young people. With effect from January 2014, people without children aged 18 to 24 years in receipt of job seekers allowance will receive €100 per week unless they are an existing claimant on a higher rate, in which case their rate will not change. So this is for new people coming into the system. People without children aged 25 years in receipt of job seekers allowance will receive €144 a week, again unless they are an existing claimant on a higher rate, in which case the rate will not change. This weekly 144 rate will increase to 188 when they reach 26 years of age. However, people who participate in a Back to Education course will have their job seekers allowance increased to €160 per week. These changes are about emphasising the importance of services over simply income support. Young people face a very difficult jobs market and they need assistance in the shape of work, training and education services. That is why we are fully reinvesting the savings from these measures and millions more in an initial €46 million investment in these youth employment initiatives. So we are investing far more into young people who are willing to take an opportunity to get involved in further education, training, work experience, employment, particularly through the Jobs Plus, than in fact we are saving by the measures I've spoken about. I want to ensure that in addition to the enhanced career and job prospects from improving skills and education levels, young people are financially better off in education, employment or training than they are in claiming. Signing on for job seekers allowance on a person's 18th birthday is not a start to adult life that any parent would want for their child. We have to be more ambitious for our young people, and I don't think there's any village or community in Ireland who wants to see a significant number of young people in their suburb, their village, their town actually walking down to the social welfare office to sign on at 18, and that then year by year passing, and when they're 25 or 26 they're still in that situation. Our young people are too talented for that to be accepted as an acceptable future. There is no doubt that the social protection system has played a key role in protecting the most vulnerable and minimising poverty throughout the economic crisis. The fact that this government has abided by its commitment to protect core weekly social welfare rates has achieved that outcome. Next year, my department will provide an additional €100 million in funding for the payment of state pensions. This is the context against which some of the changes to secondary pensioner benefits have to be seen. All the pensioners I've met in the past year have told me that the protection of their weekly pension was paramount, and I am satisfied to have done that. I've said many times, and I'll state again, that the contribution social welfare spending makes to the overall economy is a significant lever in stabilising demand in our economy, and this was particularly true in the recent economic downturn. This is why a strong and responsive welfare provision will continue to be an important part of stimulating our economy, even as employment thankfully grows. It is critical that we continue to provide for increasing financial allocations for our pensioners as they grow in number, and for those people who are unable to work due to illness or invalidity. And as a matter of interest, we will spend more than £500 million in relation to the household benefits packages on the people who are retired, the people who are carers, the people who have a disability and who qualify for the package, despite the international financial pressure we've been under in terms of reducing expenditure. When negotiations on the budget began, the Department of Social Protection was initially requested to make new expenditure reductions of £440 million. Today, I can say that I've been able to lower that amount to £226 million. An additional £30 million in savings will be made through additional fraud and control measures in 2014, while £34 million will be saved through increased efficiency and lower than expected demand on some schemes as people go back to work, bringing the Department's cumulative adjustment to £290 million. I'm keenly aware that reductions of £226 million will still impact on and cause difficulty for social welfare recipients. However, the lower adjustment means that I've protected the state pension, the carers allowance, the half-rate carers allowance, disability allowances and all the other core weekly payments upon which people depend. I've also protected crucial supplementary support for pensioners, carers and people with disabilities, such as the fuel allowance, the electricity and gas allowance, free travel, the half-rate carers allowance and the respite care grant. Child benefit has also been protected in this budget and will remain a vital universal support for all families and all children. In terms of reducing the adjustment, the £440 million down to £226 million, this has allowed me to again preserve the core weekly payment rates for all 1.4 million current beneficiaries, while at the same time providing for the increasing number of pensioners who represent a real demographic population bonus to Ireland. So providing a safety net for those in need and a pathway back to work for job seekers are two of the four core functions of the Department. The third is rooting out welfare fraud, and in that respect my department will raise a further £30 million next year through additional fraud and control measures. For instance, we have extensive cooperation now with the Gardaí. We are going to take a number of Gardaí into the employment of the department for a period of time, particularly to deploy their skills and resources at the airport and in relation to border regions in relation to fraud control and fraud deterrence. And that is very important for the taxpayers and the people who pay PRSI, that they know that as far as possible we do all in our power to limit any abuse of the social welfare system. I make no apologies for a zero-tolerance approach to welfare fraud. We have to ensure that every cent of the welfare budget goes to those who need it the most. I have always been of the conviction, since I first entered politics, that the strongest protection against poverty is decent, secure and fairly paid work. And the changes that have been made in the social welfare budget are in keeping with that conviction. This budget will help people to get back to work. It will reduce the overall welfare spend as part of the sustained effort to repair the public finances of Ireland. And they will ensure that the safety net of social welfare bears comparison with countries with very good social welfare systems throughout Europe, and of course is infinitely higher than the social welfare payments which are paid across the Irish Sea and north of the border. So we want social welfare as a safety net, but we want it also as a trampoline that it catches people, and but it lifts them up again, and it gets them to where they want to be, and particularly in relation to young people, that is back to work, back to training, back to education. I want again to say that this will only work by a partnership of government, a partnership with local authorities, a partnership with the public education and training services, but above all with employers in both the public and the private sector to create the opportunities, in particular for our young people. Countries like Austria, small country like us, they have a youth unemployment rate of less than 7%. How do they achieve that? By actually blending education and work experience, so that nobody comes out of secondary school without having had some experience of work. Equally, nobody does a 3 or a 4-year training, whether that's at a high degree level or whether that's at an apprenticeship or trainee level, without again being able to go out into the wider world of work with serious work experience on their CV. One of the problems for the young people, many of whom are so brilliantly qualified, who came out during the height of the crisis, has been that there were no jobs available for them, and as a consequence they ended up with a CV with a large blank of months or years, and as a consequence, the jobs then tend to go to the new people coming out or to people in existing jobs. And we just have to break that so that people who are misfortunate enough not to be able to get a job in the way that was the experience during the Celtic Tiger, that we provide a pathway back to work for them, and that we blend and make work experience, cooperation with employers, an integral feature of the Irish system.